All right, we're recording. This is another episode of the Man Therapy Podcast, and we call it the Man Therapy Podcast because we're a bunch of men. We're just like motor wrenching, lawn mowing, just hardcore.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, lethal. Did you say lethal?
I was thinking lethal.
Lethal.
Yeah, lethal mind reader.
I'm just mad. Like, have you? I don't know. There is. Hey, it's not happening right now because of my knee, but I went through a stage in my life where I had calmed down dramatically because I had kids, right? But I kind of went through a I wish you would stage. Did you ever go through anything like that where it's like, maybe I come out of retirement just this one time and maybe this guy talks shit to me and maybe I just snap on him? Like, have you ever went? No, you
never. I have not. I've been, I don't know if you could ever say I've really ever been in a fight. I mean, I've technically been in fights. I've been punched in the mouth one time and I punched someone else in the face one time in my whole life. And I think both of those were in junior high.
Yeah.
And haven't been in a fight ever since. And I have no interest in getting in a fight.
I've never been in a one-on-one fight. Okay. And I don't know, you're familiar with it because you went there, but the Ped Mall in Iowa City is full of people who are just ready to go, right? Like you like it's just a bunch of booze and testosterone, just like a normal college town or college street that has a ton of bars on it. And I'm going to tell you two quick stories real quick. And these are times where I've gotten my ass destroyed. Okay. And so I was in a bar and I come out, the bars are closing and everybody comes out into this area. And everybody starts to like hang out. They don't go home right away, but they hang out. And I come out of the bar and I was with a group of girls that I knew. And we were just kind of sitting there and waiting for all my other buddies to come out of the bar. And a guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man, why were you talking shit?" And I was like, I think you got the wrong person, buddy. Right. And of course I'd been drinking. I know he'd been drinking. And he's again going, "Oh, now you're going to change your mind?" And I'm like, dude, I'll be completely honest with you. I was in this bar. I don't know where you came from. I'm like, "What bar were you in?" He's like, "I was over here." And I was like, "No, man, I'm sorry. You got the wrong person over here." And he kept going at me like, "Oh, what a pussy, huh? Now you're going to change your mind? Huh? That's funny when you had all your boys with you." And I was like, "Dude, I've been hanging around girls all night." Okay. And so he kept going. And finally I said, Yep. Like, you're a pussy. Like, and I was just like, whatever. And this guy just cold cocked me here's what happened. All his boys came up behind him and then they started chirping too. They're like, "Oh, now I see." I'm like, dude, I know there's 1,000 people here that look like me, ginger from Iowa, like ginger beard, I get it, man. I get it. I'm an easy target. And they just kept going. I'm like, all right. Yep, you were a pussy. I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything what happened, but you're a pussy. And this guy came in for a punch. He hit me right in the face. And then all these guys started like jumping on and punching me and kicking me and hitting me. And this fat kid out of the blue gave me this opening. And I did the most beautiful punt of his crotch that I had ever done in my life. Like, I was just trying to get out of the scenario and not get hit anymore. And I just dropped the ball, kicked him right in his nards. And dude, the guy I heard the air come out of his body. Like he went, and then I got my ass beat a little more until all these girls kind of jumped in and like created this circle around me where I was able to like peel myself off into a taxi cab and get drawn away. And they're like, "What was that all about?" And I'm like, "I have no clue." They started talking shit. And finally I was sick of it. And I started talking shit. And then like 8 dudes beat the shit out of me. And so
Wow.
You know, back in the day, man. Back in the day.
I mean, did you have any lasting injuries from that? Because like I have to admit, I've always been afraid of getting jumped. Never been
Yeah.
jumped. I was always afraid of it.
Yeah. Yep. No. I I had just sore like bruises on my face. Like they'd never really got me. Like they
Yeah.
were kicking me in my like ribs and legs and stuff when I was down on the ground. But like, cause I threw a punch and missed and I fell over and then that's when they jumped on me and attacked.
Right.
And so the other one is same town, different, different street. The bars are closing, right? And everybody's dispersing and I'm by myself and I'm walking back to my buddy's apartment on Lynn Street over by, what was that? What's that bar? Mulligan's?
I can never keep up with them. They change all the time.
No, the Vine, the original Vine. You know where that's at, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they lived right over there. And there was a dude and a girl walking in front of me. And all of a sudden, this girl looks back at me like she knew me. And she goes, "Hey, what bar did you go to tonight?" And I'm like, "Oh, we were over here and we did this bar." And she's like, "Oh," and the guy turns around and goes, "Stop talking to her." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, dude, no problem." And then she turns around again and she's like, "What are you guys like? What are you doing after this? Like, are you going to this after party?" I had no idea where this girl was. I think she thought I was somebody else, which is a theme.
Yeah.
And the guy comes over, or I go, "No, I'm just going back to my buddy's apartment, and I think we were going to tailgate the next morning." And the guy turns around and pushes me, and I trip over a curb, and I hit my head on the back of a car bumper. And so I'm less like really dazed, but instantly pissed. And so I stand up, and the guy takes off running into an apartment. And I'm just like pissed off, dude. I'm like, what is going on? And so I go into my buddy's apartment. I take my hat out. I take my keys. I take my wallet. I set it in my hat in my buddy's apartment, and I go back outside. This guy comes out of his apartment, and I go, "I don't know what your problem is, dude. I don't want to fight, but what you did was bullshit." And he leans back and he throws this straight punch right at my face. And I put my head down and he hit the top of my head. And I heard his hand break on that. And then again, I'm like backpedaling because of this. And the guy comes at me again, and I grab him like across his shirt and I throw him to the ground and I put my forearm kind of right over his throat. And I'm like, "Dude, chill out, dude. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight." And then I see a little shimmer out of the corner of my eye, and I got hit with a full beer can from about, I don't know, like 10 feet away. A guy just launched one, hit me right in the head, and I kind of went out. And then I got my ass beat for like 5 minutes. Here's the thing that pissed me off the most about that is I stood up and I looked back at the apartment, and my friends are watching me get my ass beat through a window.
What the hell?
Yeah. And I'm like, a little help, guys. The only guy that wanted to fight wasn't there. That would have fought wasn't there. But I was just like, "Thanks, guys. Like, appreciate it."
Wow. Time for new friend group.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. It was those days. I look back at days like that and I'm just like, who was I? Like, I don't even know if I had a definition or a purpose in life. I didn't know what direction I was going. I was in college doing something, but dude, it was just, it's crazy. I look back at that and I go, dude, I had a lot of fun, but I hope my kids do not follow that path that I was on, man. It was crazy.
Right?
It was crazy.
Dude, you're so lucky you didn't get brain damage.
Oh yeah.
Getting hit in the side of the head with a full beer can and like being on the ground where people can kick you in the head.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, dude.
Yeah. It could have. I used to be like a rocket scientist until those days. And
the things are starting to make a lot more
sense. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Jeez. Yes. It's interesting how some people are more prone to those types of experiences than others. Like I've
Yeah.
just never, never been beaten up.
Yeah.
Been
I,
beaten up multiple times.
and the thing about it is I always used to be able to avoid fights. Now I'm not huge, right? Like I'm 6'1", and I've been 200 pounds since over 200 pounds since probably 10th grade. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And I have always like anytime there was some shit, like a group or another guy would do something, and then he would see my size and maybe back down a little bit, right? Or some shit would get crazy, and I would say something just completely crazy, like I'm gonna eat your sandwich, dude, and they'll be like, okay, what does this guy mean? Is he gonna bite me? Like I don't feel
Right.
like I'm down for a fight, but I don't want to get bit tonight. Like crazy shit, and then that would dissolve it,
Yeah. Throw them
dissolve
off
it.
a little bit.
Yeah. So
Oh
I
man.
don't know. Those
Man.
are those days are. I'm glad they're gone. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna tell you that they were fun, but I'm glad they're gone.
Oh yeah. Makes my hands sweat just thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. Have
Getting,
you ever?
I don't, go ahead.
What's one of the highest pressure situations that you have ever been in your life? And it doesn't have to be like a bar fight or something crazy like that. Just like a moment where you, I don't know, lost control, or you were scared, or a moment, just like high pressure, high heart rate. Oh my God, what's going to happen type of moment.
Man, that's a really good question. Probably none of them are life and death. One time that I was absolutely terrified, I was rock climbing, and I'm not a rock climber, but my little brother moved out to Utah. He's a pharmacist, and he moved out there, and he lived there for a few years, and I went and visited him. And my little brother's really outdoorsy, and he makes friends with outdoorsy people. So when I went and visited him, we went rock climbing with a friend of his who's like a rock climbing guide,
Yeah.
and we went to this spot on a mountain that's like, I don't know, 200 or 300 feet up, and it's a pretty sheer face, like pretty
Yeah.
straight up and down. It wasn't like climbing trails. It was, you latch into the ropes, and they call it belaying, where you've got somebody that like holds the other end of the rope for you.
Yeah.
And I'm just wearing like running shoes, and they're like, they set me all up, and they're like, all right, go. And I was like, okay. And I'm scared of heights. Like I'll
Yeah.
go to high places because I also like that excitement, but it's scary.
Yeah.
And so I just start climbing this mountain, this sheer rock face, and we didn't do any tests to like show how good the like belaying is. Like I didn't know how good the safety harness was. And so I'm just terrified to like fall. And so I'm going up this face, and I'm going up 50 feet. I'm like, oh God, this is scary. Going up, I'm 100 feet. This is scary. 150 feet. This is really scary. And like all my muscles are tired because I'm not a person that does that develops strength in their forearms and their hands
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But like the average dipshit like me doesn't
Yeah.
have any of that.
Right.
Like my fingers are cramping and they're totally numb, and my forearms are cramping up, and I'm like terrified, and I'm like shaking and trembling, and like just terrified I'm gonna fall off. But I was super afraid to trust the safety stuff, so I never did fall off, and so I just kept climbing up and got to the top just out of like sheer adrenaline.
Right.
But that most of that time I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And I never fell off of it. And then at the end, they were like, all right, now you belay down, where you like let
Yeah.
yourself go down and they bring you down. And turns out it's like totally safe,
Yeah.
really safe. But that was super terrifying. And that makes my palms sweat just thinking about that.
Yeah.
But another time wasn't like a physically scary situation. Another time that I felt like panicky, or like my brain went completely blank and I was scared and didn't know what to do, was the first time that I had to make a child abuse report for work.
Oh shit.
I was a registered play therapist, and I was doing play therapy with this kid. I'm not going to give any details
Yeah.
about the child, but basically they disclosed sexual abuse, and my mind just went blank. Like technically I had all the training.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, I should have known exactly what to do, but like in that moment, and it was kind of early in the session too, so then I had like a bunch more time with him, and my brain just went totally blank. I was like, "Oh my god, what do I do? What do I do now?"
Mhm.
And I'm just like, I didn't want to mess it up because there's certain protocol that you have to follow, and then you don't want to like ask leading questions, but you do want to gather some information. And
Yeah.
I'd never done any of that before, and I'd never even seen it done before, and so I just brain went completely blank. I just I thought as quickly as I could, and I just like as sneaky as I could text my boss like,
Yeah.
"Hey, this kid just said this. What do I do now?" And then she just like walked me through it in real
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
I have some
very
questions
scary
about
moment.
that.
Hmm.
How were you a father at that point?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. All right.
That'd be
Have
even
you
harder.
Yeah, have you had to ever do anything like that while you had kids?
um, no, and I got out of that because it was really, really hard for me. It took a lot out of me to do that type of work,
Mhm.
and I basically knew that once I had kids, I was gonna be game over.
Yeah.
I couldn't possibly stand that, and so I stayed in counseling, but I just straight up stopped working with kids.
Yeah.
It's too
Okay.
nasty, man. Like, I was making, child abuse reports weekly, sometimes multiple reports weekly, and, like, just hearing about the horrible shit that happened to these kids, it's enough to just absolutely make you sick, and it did,
Yeah.
not carrying, like, I think you have to be built for that, and I just wasn't.
Yeah.
I
There
couldn't stand it.
there's certain groups of people who are able to disconnect from that where they can talk about or like work with that type of thing like abuse or imagine like an ER doctor who
Right.
deals with children coming in with gunshot wounds and then coming home and having to completely disconnect from it to have somewhat of a healthy life, right? And that's where I really give giant respect to those types of people because I'm not built that way. If there was a kid who told me he was sexually abused by somebody, I would find them and beat the shit out of them, right? Like if that was like, hey, yeah, somebody's been touching me or put things here or there, and I'm like, what now? Right? I'm not built like that. I would go straight to anger, and so it was a couple years ago and there's a couple down the street, amazing people, and they are foster parents. So they bring in kids, and I think they've adopted like two kids full time since they've started this, in addition to their own. And that's people with big hearts, right? Big hearts, and they understand, and they're able to like people like that. Congratulations, man! Thank you for that. But I met this kid, and just this kid who he didn't necessarily know how to act because he's been in such a shit life thus far. And, you learn a little bit about them and what they've gone through and things like that. And it makes you sad, like really sad, to the point where this kid became part of our bus stop routine. And we would play football with each other and I'd hand him the ball and I'd throw him the ball and this kid had a smile on his face and that this was the best time, the best part of this kid's life so far because he came from a house that was drug abuse, and that drug abuse turned into a mom who was running dudes in and out of the house, and one of those dudes or multiple of those dudes sexually assaulted this dude, this
Yeah.
third grader. And so I I know that that kid in that house down the street, this was the best that this kid has ever had and the most love this kid had ever had. And then the kid's past and abuse and all that started catching up to him to where he was then threatening the other children that he lived with. And that can't happen. So he had to be removed from his house and go back to the orphanage or wherever he came from.
Yeah,
And
true.
now, and now I don't know where this kid is. And I'll be completely honest, I had a really hard time like having that kid not be a part of our bus stop routine anymore, to the point where I was like, hey, where's so and so? And then they kind of talked a little bit about, I can't get into the details, but this is kind of why he's not with us anymore. And I then go, now this kid is back into a home or an orphanage where the amount of love is less, where he's probably treated as a number, where, I'm hoping that there's very good people there that learn how, like, that comfort him and he has the right therapist and things like that. But
Hmm.
what is going to happen to this kid growing up the rest of his life? Like,
Yeah.
it is truly sad. That's one of my like big weaknesses is children, because they are so innocent and they do not deserve any of the pain that they get in life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Especially
Yeah.
with abuse or assault or things like that, man. It fucking pisses me off.
Oh, dude. I mean, it should. Any adult that would abuse a child is just sick.
Hmm.
Just sick.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I think I've told you, and I don't. I'm hearing a bit of an echo of my voice. Are you hearing that?
It might be too close to the microphone. My ear buds.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so I worked at a residential treatment facility for children,
Yeah.
out of undergrad, and it's interesting because I went to the school that I went to. This treatment facility is like in that school district.
Hmm.
So a lot of the kids from that treatment facility came to school where I went to school, and we all know where they lived, and a lot of them were kind of strange, kind of off. They weren't all like bad or
Hmm.
anything. Just you could tell that they were different though,
Hmm.
and so everybody knew they were different. They got teased, they got picked on, some more than others. And I grew up with them. So like they were there. I went to the same school from kindergarten through 12th grade. It's the same school that our kids go to.
Hmm.
Um, and I just always knew everybody knew that kids from that facility were like odd and off.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So there's that. I had that just that connotation of all those years of going to school there. So then I get a job there, and I'm basically like these kids live there for like 9 months to like a year and a half. A lot of them, uh, some of them get court ordered out of their homes to live there because their behaviors are so bad. Some of their parents just voluntarily bring them there because the behaviors are so bad and they can't stay in the home. Um, Sometimes it's the kid has like a major psychological issue that's causing it, and sometimes I would say the vast majority of the time it's the parents are so unhealthy that they can't provide a healthy environment for the kids, and so these like normal kids are growing up in these horrible environments, and it's making these kids behave poorly, right?
Yeah. I,
So
I want to interrupt 1 second and ask this
yeah,
question because I think it's
yeah,
pertinent to the timing.
yeah,
When you were there and you're working with these kids, are you seeing like repetitiveness and like generational mental illness or generational drug abuse and I don't know, like whatever that is, repetitive from generation to generation to generation?
yeah, generational trauma. I
Yeah.
I I think so. I don't mean for this to sound shitty. It's just an observation that when you looked at the families, I met all the families. Um, a lot of the families were really rough,
Hmm.
and I'd sometimes or actually kind of often met the grandparents too, and they seemed pretty rough. Like it was exceptionally rare that it was like a well put together family that was like, oh yeah, little Timmy just acts out. Like
Hmm.
there was like a lot of dysfunction,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make assumptions, but I would guess that it was a lot of generational issues,
Yeah.
lower socioeconomic status, so having fewer resources, and yeah, so a lot of that.
Yeah.
Um, so I start working at this place, and I'm basically like their dad. So like my shift of the week, let's call it like Sunday through Wednesday. I'm their dad Sunday through Wednesday. I'm the one that wakes them up in the morning, make sure they get ready for school, make sure they eat breakfast and brush their teeth, and they come home. I make sure they put their stuff away and do their homework and eat dinner and go out and play and get ready for bed and all the things. So I'm just their dad while I'm working there, and so I'm responsible for like 4 kids. And so I had to read their files. And dude, I started reading all these kids' files, and this is the most sickening, heartbreaking stuff you've ever read. And every single one of them. And there have been, hundreds and probably I'm sure at this point thousands of kids have gone through there, and it's horrible story after horrible story. You could just you could take a random selection at any point in time and just read those kids' files, and it's going to be something horrible. Like the kids that I just happened to have on my unit had cigarettes put out on them and had been locked in a closet for 3 days and sexually abused and all of these things. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I realized these are all the kids that I was going to school with from kindergarten through 12th grade. And we're all like, geez, those kids are weird. And we're kind of like, I guess I was actually always pretty nice to them. But I know that they got picked on, and I know that they got ostracized. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, no wonder they're a little off. Like, no wonder no wonder they can't like behave normally at school. Like, first of all, I got to like come home to my house. I got to come home to my family, and my family was really pretty healthy overall. These kids came to school from a treatment facility.
Mm-hmm.
And when school got out, they went home to a treatment facility. They didn't go home to mom giving them a hug. They didn't go home to like sitting on dad's lap and playing catch and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
dude, there were the only way to describe it would be riots. There were riots on the unit where all the kids would start freaking out and busting stuff and ripping TVs off the wall and slamming them on the ground and busting out windows, destroying stuff. Like there were fights all the time. There were, we had to restrain kids physically. Um, we had seclusion rooms where we'd put them in a seclusion room and close the door, and they'd be in there freaking out and stripping butt naked and pooping in their hand and smearing it all over the walls and doing all this crazy stuff. And like the other kids are just supposed to pretend like that's not happening and go about their evening routine.
Yeah.
And then they get up the next morning and go to school.
Yeah.
And it just really hit me hard. Like, whoa, I I'm glad I was never mean to those kids. And then I also had a new respect for, holy crap, like they're just trying to live life. And
Yeah.
then it was really interesting from like a counselor's perspective of these kids, by and large, they would get way better
Mm-hmm.
when they were at this treatment facility. They might be really rough at first, or they might honeymoon at first, but either way, they almost always showed their like rough side that got them put in there.
Yeah.
And the system was so good there that the system was able to handle it, and the kids like tested really hardcore, and then the kids would end up like giving up and then falling in line with the program, which
Mm-hmm.
was really good. And then these kids that were like crazy rough, they would end up being just like, you would swear they're just like a totally normal little kid.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, this is totally possible. Like they can totally rehab. This is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And then guess what would happen?
They go back to the environment.
They go back to the environment. And then you would hear like it was really often the case that we would um send a kid home and within a few months hear that they were in a different treatment center somewhere because they did something like completely out of character. And it's like, wow, I can totally see that because their parents were crazy.
Oh, yeah. And I'm guessing this is what happened. They go back. And to be honest with you, they probably even tried really hard to be better and be good and use what they've
Mm-hmm.
learned. And then they had some piece of shit tell them, like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You're a Johnson. You're a piece of shit. Right. And
Yep.
then they just probably get shit on by other people who are unhappy with their life, dude. I'm going to
Yeah.
admit something right now. 7th and 8th grade in middle school. Like all growing up, I struggled with reading. I was not good in school, and I also like started to wear glasses and like very self-conscious about all of those things, right? And so, and I don't want to make this an excuse because my behavior was 100% unacceptable. And what I did was 100% unacceptable. But there was a kid who started bullying some other kids. And in 7th and 8th grade, instead of standing up for those kids, I in turn started being a bully myself and bullied some people with other groups. It was, I don't, and the reason I did it is because I was unhappy at my home with my stepdad at the time. And I was also unhappy with who I was from like a, I don't know, like not good at reading. And then I wanted to fly under the radar too because I didn't want people to make fun of me. So what did I do? I jumped into the crowd and I started bullying other kids.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of regrets in my life, but 100% regret being that big of a piece of shit in middle school. Like,
Yeah.
and then when I started to realize it, like the effects it had on some of these kids. And like when I got into high school, I kind of stopped and I stopped doing that. And then I also became like, I knew that I made a mistake and I went in on bullies then. So I started bullying bullies, like trying to
Right.
be some kind of Robin Hood, whatever type of character. And I've kind of I tried real hard to treat everybody the same or give everybody an opportunity. And I think that's where I became friends with like the shop kids and then the jocks and then the music guys. And like I had a very big friend group and I knew everybody. And I, dude, I look back at those times and I was just a scared little boy who was lost and didn't know what to do. So I decided to take that out on other people, man.
Oh yeah.
And I had to, I've had to teach my boys and my kids, like, dude, you do not take your problems out on other people at all. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good lesson. And, I always appreciate that you open up and tell unflattering stories and things about yourself. I think, again,
yeah,
that's what this podcast is about, is trying to be useful and not just showing people our social highlight reel, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
I can certainly say that every time that I made fun of someone else, it was due to my own insecurity.
Oh,
You know,
100%.
there's a difference between like my friends and I were and probably still are extremely harsh in like how we rip on each other and make fun of each other. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
No.
about where there's someone that that you have social clout over, so to speak.
Hmm.
They have less social clout in junior high, in high school, and you pick on someone that is like more vulnerable or
Yeah.
weaker than you, and that's cowardly behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can connect with that too. I didn't do a ton of that, but I know that I did a little bit of it, and I
Hmm.
I know that was a piece of shit move every time I did it.
Yeah.
I will also say that, I mean, you hit the nail on the head that people that are unhappy with themselves do that, because healthy people don't ever tear down other
Yeah.
people because they
Right.
just don't ever feel the need to. And then you
Right.
also touched on something else that's a well-known psychological principle, and that's the concept of in-group versus out-group.
Yeah.
And that if you're unsure of where you stand, if you're not confident, if you're insecure, then you will be very motivated to create an out-group and create an in-group, and to position yourself in the in-group so that you're not vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so this it's really interesting, because you could pick, like if I was feeling um insecure right now, and like maybe people that are just listening to this can't see, but like Dan's wearing a red um St. Louis hat. And it's kind of faded and maybe a little bit dirty. And if I was feeling insecure right now, I'd be like, "Whoa, nice red hat, Dan. It's starting to look pink, dude.
Yeah.
Can't your family afford a new hat?" And like, your hat might actually be super cool. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with your hat. But if
Yeah.
I'm feeling insecure, I'm gonna find any reason to make fun of you.
Right.
And then I'm gonna like see if there's even like another insecure person around me that I can be like, "Hey, look at Dan's hat.
Yeah.
Isn't that ugly? Isn't that dirty?" And if I
Yeah.
can get that person to start chirping at you too, now all
Yeah.
of a sudden I'm in the in group, so I'm safe, and we've identified you as the person that's in the out group, even though like you might be 10 times cooler than both of us. But
Yeah.
humans will develop in groups and out groups everywhere, and you've probably seen it happening with your kids, whether they're in the in group or out group, and like you see these group fluctuations.
Hmm.
That's how a lot of people feel safe, is to feel like people feel safe when they're part of a group, and
Yeah.
I think that probably comes from millennia of development of, if you're excommunicated from your tribe, you're as good as dead. And so being in good standing with your tribe or with your group, then you get to live and be
Yeah.
part of the oils and be part of the team. But if you're not, then
Yeah.
you're dead.
A lot of that had to do with my childhood, I think, where my mom and dad got divorced. That was traumatic for me, in a way, right? Like it happened in a way where I don't know, like it happened in a way where I didn't understand what was going on, right?
Mm,
And my parents would say things to me about the other parent that probably I should have never heard, right? Like, or they shouldn't have said that, but they were probably both very frustrated and whatever, right? So then my mom marries this new guy, and a lot of, we're talking about high pressure situations here. I did not like this guy. He was a piece of shit. Eventually turned out to prove that he was a piece of shit. And that, like, I went through a period of time where I was afraid to sleep in my own bed in my own house because I knew that guy was upstairs, right? And so I went through a time where I was scared, I was angry, and I feel like that ultimately led me to being that bully-ish person, because if like I didn't want someone to say, "Oh, your mom's married to this guy," or like, "Oh, you're a dumbass." Like this guy would call me a dumbass all the time, right? And slap me and my brother on the back of our heads, not like punch us or hit us, just like, "Come on, dumbass," and that pissed me off a lot, right? And so, I obviously I grew out of that. I got bigger, was less afraid of him, and then ultimately they got divorced and moved on, and then that problem was solved. But um, my my scare, me being scared, me being like feeling weak and feeling like I couldn't do anything, is what led me to taking that frustration out on others.
hmm
So yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
was, and so for anybody out there, like I mean, there's not going to be any kids really listening to this podcast, but um, just know that, like, uh, if you live in this world with anger and frustration, man, it is a waste. It's like wasted emotion. I get it, right? Bad things happen, and people are allowed to be frustrated, and people are allowed to be angry at times. But if you let it run your entire life, man, it is crippling. It is crippling. And if we just lead with love and kindness and empathy, man, I'm just a huge advocate of those three. Um, the world will be a better place. You will feel better about yourself. Like being a shitbag to somebody or showing that person love and empathy, you're gonna feel better about yourself if you're doing the right thing, man. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. That was my soapbox moment there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. If you're the person that's been a shitbag, it's never too late to turn it around.
Yep.
If you're the person that was on the receiving end of that, first of all, it likely wasn't your fault. It was likely because of the bully is probably extremely insecure. Um, and if you're a thing that I've seen in counseling is that people will hold a grudge forever. Like the person that got bullied, not always, but
Hmm.
sometimes the person that got bullied holds a grudge for a really long time and hates that bully forever.
Yeah.
If that's you, um, do some personal work. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe consider going to counseling, or maybe read a book about letting go. You don't have to carry that forever, because I know that can be a really heavy burden to bear also. And
Yeah.
there's an expression that I like. I don't know who said it, so I'll just have to paraphrase, and it's something like, "The fire you keep for your enemy burns you worse than it burns them," which is
Amen.
basically like you being really mad at like whoever bullied you or whoever is mistreating you. That doesn't even affect them at all that you're that mad, but it does poison your daily experience. And so if
Yeah.
you're holding on to any of that kind of stuff from your childhood, or if any of that's going on now, maybe consider going to counseling for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Get it
agree.
past you.
Some of the stuff, like I've talked to you recently about, my journey with kind of reigniting my faith. And that has helped me a lot in forgiving people
Mm.
or understanding why people would act a certain way, and then forgiving them for their actions, and then also learning how to forgive myself, because I went through a big period of I am not worthy of what I have in this life because of how I treated other people in the past, and making a lot of bad decisions. But then realizing like I'm not that person anymore, but still holding on to those types of things and having to learn how to let go of that because that's not who I am now, type of
Yeah.
deal.
Can,
Yeah.
can you share can you share an insight that you've gained in that way?
Um,
What helps you be able to forgive yourself, and why does that seem like rational and reasonable to you? What are you able to like grab onto, or what makes sense, or what helps you get traction in that way?
well, I don't know. I used to think that that's a great question. I guess I've never thought about it um, that deep. I just kind of have been like, I'm not that guy anymore. Better change.
Yeah, that's not
Type-
nothing. That's not
Yeah.
nothing.
I, but ask that question again to me, and maybe
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
think.
So
Ask it again.
what why does it make sense to you that you are able to forgive yourself and move forward?
Well, number one is, I guess I would say, realization, right? The realization of the matter is that when I was doing those things, I was more than likely abusing alcohol. I mean, I started drinking when I was in seventh grade, dude. And I don't mean like consistently, but by the time I was in 10th grade, dude, I was probably drinking alcohol every weekend. And this year that I've gone without alcohol, right? Over a year now, it has been the longest period of time that I've been without alcohol since seventh grade. Believe that. That's fucking crazy. That's a crazy stat, right? And so I was abusing alcohol at a very young age, and I truly believe that it impacted who I was and the decisions that I made. And a lot of the bad decisions that I made were under the influence of alcohol, or the anxiety of drinking too much alcohol and then having to deal with the hangovers and the anxiety that went along with coming off alcohol or wanting to drink more and things like that. And then kind of realizing, like, dude, you don't have to be this person. You can be a better person. You can be kinder. You can be nicer. And
Yeah.
then what I tried to do was just, like, for me anyway, I opened the floodgates for kindness. And what I mean by that is I understood that, and this is going to sound crazy, but there's a Dr. Seuss book where a guy gets a little bit of red paint on something and it turns pink. And then it kind of like spreads. And then the next thing you know, this entire the entire world is covered in this pink paint because it's just been spread and soaked in everywhere. And I kind of looked at that like love and kindness, and very simple things like smiling at people, or opening a door for someone, or helping someone pick something up into their car, or getting out of a way, or saying excuse me, or telling people like, dude, those shoes are badass, man. Like, I like your shoes. Like, and I think, to be honest with you, my wife probably hates it because I tell her I love her and I think she's gorgeous every day, to the point where she's probably sick of it. But
Sounds terrible, dude.
yeah, but I'm trying to, I just tried to project it. And then when you project it long enough, it's like saying, like, I am I'm good at podcasting, dude. I'm good at podcasting. I'm good at podcast. You start saying it long enough and loud enough, you start to believe it. And so then I feel like when I started changing my behavior is when I started believing in that behavior. And then, that then transfers over to my relationships. Whether I know you I only know you for 5 minutes, or if I've known you for 15 years, type of deal. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then you get to you start to feel better about yourself, and that's the game changer right there. Is when you start to feel better about yourself, and then, like, it just goes on to the next person. And what I'm hoping is that that little bit of kindness that someone experienced could possibly be the best part of that kid's day. So, like, for example, when we were at the bus stop, just playing football with other groups of kids and having smiles and laughs, and people are cheering for this guy when he scored a touchdown, that that's the best part of his day. And maybe the thought there is that this kid goes on and he makes the best part of it someone else's day, right? And it's
Mhm.
it's a snowball effect. So
Mhm.
a little
Absolutely.
bit a little bit of that. That was a long
That's good. No, that's the answer.
rant.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that's good. There's no such thing as too long or too short.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I appreciate that a lot. I really wholeheartedly support people in forgiving themselves, because just because a person used to be a shitbag doesn't mean they always have to be.
Hmm.
And it's never too late to turn it around. And I also firmly believe that better is better. So it's like I'm I think about it in my parenting. If there's like something that I don't like about my parenting, and I finally am able to like get a handle on it, like yelling at my kids or something, and I do it less, then I don't want to spend the next 10 years beating myself up because I used to yell. I want to spend the next 10 years enjoying my life of not yelling as much.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great plan to like always beat yourself up for your past. I think it's okay to mature and recognize it and learn some lessons and move forward. I also think I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this, but um, a psychologist I loosely follow said he said naivety is not a virtue, and what he was talking about is basically that you have a deeper understanding of of what your values are if you have some experience with breaking them.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, like, your values get revealed to you through how you feel after you go against them. So,
Yeah.
like, if you make fun of somebody and then you feel like shit, that's a deeper experience than like, "Oh, I've never made fun of anybody because I just don't believe in that." Like, when
Hmm.
you felt the burn of doing the behavior that you don't value, then you have a deeper understanding of why you should never do that again.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to stand up. I think you're more likely to stand up for other people and help other people get
Yeah.
on the same path. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people that have been through a lot of shit end up being deeper people.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of going back to my faith journey, and the Bible study that I go to now. They like the preacher has kind of talked to me about that. He's like, dude, you've gone through experiences on your path to Christ that the person who has been a good Christian their whole life will never understand, and more than likely, like, that doesn't make them a better Christian than you either, right? It's like based off of what you read in the Bible and all this stuff is like
Mhm, mhm.
everybody's equal, right? Like, um, but but the path, whether you're there, whether you find it, you've been living it for 55 to 100 years, or you just found it the last 5 minutes of your life, it's the same thing, right? And so, um, it's it's good because you understand, and it maybe hits harder too, where you're just like, dude, yeah, what I did was not good, and I admit
Uh-huh.
it, and now I found something better,
Yeah.
and that makes me feel good about myself, and it also um, teaches me how to treat other people,
Yeah.
right? And because I've been the person who has not only been treated poorly, but has been the one who has treated others poorly as well.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And I'm not advocating that anybody goes out and bullies so that they can see how it feels and then
Oh yeah,
don't
don't
do
do
it
that.
anymore.
Yeah,
Not
take
saying
our
that, but
word
I am
for it.
saying,
Yeah.
yeah, I am saying that if you have, we've used the example of bullying, but it could be any negative behavior that or any behavior that you don't like.
Hmm.
It's never too late to learn your lesson and move forward. The metaphor I like to use is when I was a kid, I'll never forget this. When I was a kid, we had an electric stove that had the coils on top, and the coils were right at eye height for me. So that's how old I was.
Yeah.
Pretty little. The coils of the stove were at eye level, and my mom was cooking, and the coils were glowing red. And I said, "Mom, is that hot?" And she said, "Oh yeah, that's really hot. Don't ever touch that." And I went, "Hmm."
Yeah.
Ah! I just first thing I did just reached up and I just put my finger right on it. Oh
Oh
my
boy.
God. It hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Um, and so I have now a practical knowledge and understanding of why you don't touch hot things,
Yes.
right? As
Yes.
opposed to a theoretical understanding of like, yeah, don't touch that. That's hot.
Yeah.
But dude, now I know to be like scared of it as opposed to like, oh, we just don't touch hot stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like my understanding, both people will have good behaviors of not touching hot things moving forward. My understanding of why you don't touch hot things is deeper than the
Right.
understanding of somebody that's never touched something hot.
Right. Right. This is something that there's a buzzword in what you just said that I want to explore in a couple, maybe next episode or in future episodes. But that is how we value ourselves. And I think that's there's some really good topics to unpack in that, because there was a period of time in my life. um, I was living by myself in a town where I had no friends. I was there for work. I would leave my apartment. I'd go to the gym. I would work. I would come home, and I would be in my apartment, and I didn't go out or do anything. And I would drink like 12 to 18 beers a night, dude. Right? Just sitting in a chair watching TV in an apartment with no air conditioning. And it was probably one of the lowest points in my life, as far as me feeling sorry for myself and me feeling like I didn't have any value there. And
Mm,
so I would love in a future episode to talk to you about not only how we should value ourselves, but maybe how to regain value when you think that it's been lost as well.
mhm,
So
mhm.
basically, like, there's some people out there who are just really good at, like, I'm one of those guys who's like, okay, pussy, enough of this sulking. Get off your ass and go do something. That kind of talk to myself. And other
Yeah,
people maybe need a different method. So,
yeah.
you think that's a good topic for upcoming episode?
I think it's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wrote it down.
cool,
Yeah,
cool.
I'll put some more thought into it too between sessions.
This has been a really good BS session. I didn't really know where this was going to go, and per usual, we crushed it, dude. We
Yeah,
just crushed it.
always.
Right. Right. And so, Kyle, man, thank you for your insight today. Thank you very much for what you're bringing to this. I appreciate you and your time. Um, and I will say that I do have to ask you this question. I don't think I've ever asked you this, and we'll end on after this question. Why did you decide to become a counselor?
Yeah, well, probably an apt question based on what we talked about today. I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, and I only went to college because that was just the expected next step.
Yeah.
Freshman year of college was 13th grade of high school for me. Like I
Yeah.
just kept going to school because that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Hadn't ended up double majoring. Only because I was just followed my interests, but none of that gave me a career path. So, I graduated from undergrad and I did really well in college. But when I graduated, I was like, I have no idea what I want to do. I was telling my mom, I have no clue what I want to do, where I want to work, where I want to go, none of that. And she's like, well, I could probably get you a job at the residential treatment facility I work at.
Yeah.
My mom worked at that place just in the front office. She didn't work with the kids. And so I was like, all right, cool. That's as good as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I start working there and lo and behold, just think due to my nature, I started just developing relationships with the kids and they felt comfortable with me and they felt safe with me. And, they would end up like talking to me and opening up to me. And, they would tell me a lot of their stuff and that was, heavy, but it felt important. And I'll never forget this. One time this kid disclosed a bunch of things to me, and I went to my boss and said, "Hey, like, this kid told me these things," and my boss said, "Oh, you can't talk to him about any of that stuff. Next time he starts talking about that stuff, tell him he has to talk to his therapist. And I was like, oh, I need to be a therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought,
So
oh,
that was like a big moment. That was like almost like a
yeah,
light switch moment for
it
you.
was the first time I had any sense of direction for what I wanted to do or how I could apply my skills. It's almost like, yeah, I didn't even realize that I could. Like I am a good listener, and I am a good counselor, and I've kind of always been that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the first time that that really solidified for me. So then I started researching grad schools and did that whole process and became a counselor, and that's why I started out working with kids, because it all started from the that residential treatment facility. And then obviously I ended up getting burned out there. But yeah, that's why I started, because kids were opening up to me, and then but I wasn't allowed to talk to them about any of that stuff because I wasn't a therapist. And so I
Mhm.
thought, all right, I guess I need to be a therapist.
Yeah. Interesting.
So that's how that started.
Well, I'm glad you found it because you're probably doing a lot of good for. I mean, you're not probably doing. You are doing a lot of good for people and helping them find the path. You know, fix the path or find the path
Yeah,
um,
both.
or just start walking the path. Even
Oh
so,
yeah, yeah.
um, Kyle, you're the man. Appreciate you. Any final words before we shut her down, my friend?
Appreciate you too.
All right. Well, if you like the Man Therapy podcast, please go to iTunes, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, wherever you download the Man Therapy podcast. Please give us a 5-star review. Please tell your friends about it. Subscribe. We also launched this on YouTube, so you can watch it there if you want to look at us and how some people have called us the most handsome podcast that's currently out there. And
Yeah.
that's debatable, but I agree.
To each
Right.
their
So
own. Yeah.
yeah, to each their own. Right. So shout out to those people. But all right. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.